Why do we lose muscle as we age, even when we are still moving, walking, and staying active? Why do so many men and women notice that, despite eating less and trying to stay fit, their bodies become weaker, their posture suffers, and their metabolism slows down? This silent condition is called sarcopenia, the age-related loss of muscle mass and strength. It begins quietly in our 40s, accelerates in our 50s and 60s, and if left unchecked, becomes one of the biggest predictors of falls, frailty, fractures, and even premature death. Now, here is the surprising truth. Walking is not enough to prevent it. In fact, many people assume that daily steps or casual cardio protect them from muscle loss. The research is very clear. Walking is excellent for circulation, heart health, and stress reduction, but it does not send a strong enough signal to your muscle fibers to maintain or grow them. That is why today we are going to focus on 2 simple home exercises, backed by science, that can literally switch off sarcopenia, rebuild muscle, and restore your metabolic engine, no gym required. Let me explain what is really going on inside your body. Muscle is not just about strength. It is an endocrine organ. It communicates with your liver, your brain, your immune system, and even your fat cells through tiny protein messengers called myokines. Every time you contract muscle under real tension, you release these myokines that lower inflammation, improve insulin sensitivity, and even stimulate the growth of new mitochondria, the power plants of your cells. That means more energy, better glucose control, and slower aging. But when we neglect resistance, the opposite happens. Muscle fibers shrink, mitochondria decline, insulin resistance creeps in, and fat begins to accumulate around the belly and the liver. This is why losing muscle is not just about losing strength, it is a root cause of metabolic disease. The good news is that science shows it does not take hours in a gym to fight back. Just 2 targeted exercises done in your living room with no equipment can provide the exact stimulus your muscles need to grow, even after the age of 60. We are going to unpack what those exercises are, why they are so effective, and how you can build them into your routine in less than 15 minutes per day. So in this video, we are going to explore 6 powerful insights. We will look at why sarcopenia is accelerating in modern life, the physiology of how muscle protects against diabetes and heart disease, the mistake most people make when relying only on cardio, the 2 evidence-backed home exercises that switch on muscle growth, the nutritional strategies that accelerate results, and finally, the simple weekly plan you can start today to reverse muscle loss. If you are ready to take control of your strength, energy, and longevity, stay with me. By the end, you will have a science-based blueprint you can begin using right away to protect your muscles for life. Most people think muscle loss is something that happens only in their 70s or 80s. But here is the reality. It begins far earlier. By the time most men and women hit their 40s, they are already experiencing measurable declines in muscle fiber size and strength, even if they remain fairly active. In fact, research shows that starting in the 30s, adults lose about 3 to 5% of their muscle mass each decade. By age 50, this loss can accelerate to 1% per year. Now, you may be wondering, why does this happen? The root causes lie in physiology. Muscle tissue is metabolically expensive for the body to maintain. Your body sees muscle almost like an investment account. If it is not being used under tension, the body will withdraw from it to conserve energy. That is why the old phrase, use it or lose it, is not just a cliche, it is biology. Think of your muscle fibers like employees in a company. When the workload is high heavy lifting, resistance and challenge the body keeps those employees hired and even invests in training them. But when the workload drops with more sitting, less resistance, and just casual walking, the company lays off employees. Over time, your muscle workforce shrinks, and you lose both size and strength. What the research shows is that the most vulnerable fibers are the fast-twitch fibers. These are the fibers you need for quick movements, climbing stairs, catching yourself if you trip, or lifting a heavy box. When these fibers atrophy, your functional independence declines, and your risk of falls and fractures skyrockets. The tragedy is that these losses begin silently in midlife. Most people do not notice until they have already lost a significant percentage. Here is another layer: hormones. As men and women age, testosterone, growth hormone, and estrogen levels decline. These hormones are powerful signals that keep muscle tissue responsive to protein and exercise. When they fall, the body becomes more resistant to muscle building. Combine that with a modern lifestyle, processed food, Long hours of sitting, poor sleep, and you have the perfect storm accelerating sarcopenia. But let us also be very clear. This is not inevitable. There are cultures and populations where muscle and strength are maintained well into the 70s and 80s. The difference comes down to lifestyle signals. Do you challenge your muscles under real resistance? Do you fuel them with enough high-quality protein? Do you support recovery with sleep and micronutrients? Or do you let them quietly shrink through disuse and undernutrition? Here is a simple analogy. Imagine you own a sports car. If you keep it in the garage, never rev the engine, never take it on the highway, the car will still look fine from the outside. But under the hood, the engine starts to rust and weaken. When you finally need the power, it is not there. That is exactly what happens with muscle. And this is why waiting until your 70s to address sarcopenia is too late. The time to act is now, while the muscle fibers are still there to be trained, fed, and strengthened. Think of it like protecting your retirement savings. The earlier you start investing, the more powerful the results compound over time. If this is helpful so far, consider subscribing. I post content like this every day to help you protect your health, energy, and longevity naturally. In the next section, we're going to talk about the hidden role of muscle as a metabolic organ and why losing muscle does not just make you weaker, but also directly pushes you toward diabetes, fatty liver, and accelerated aging. When most people think of muscle, they imagine strength, athletics, or physical appearance. But here is the deeper truth. Muscle is not just about lifting weights or looking toned. Muscle is an active metabolic organ. It communicates with the rest of your body, it regulates hormones, and it acts as one of the most powerful weapons against chronic disease. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Think of your muscle as a massive metabolic sink. Every time you eat carbohydrates, sugars, or starch, your blood sugar rises. That sugar has to go somewhere. Muscle is the largest storage tank for glucose in the human body. When your muscle mass is healthy, it absorbs that sugar efficiently, pulling it out of the bloodstream and storing it as glycogen. That keeps your blood sugar balanced and prevents insulin resistance. But what happens when you lose muscle? The tank shrinks. Your body suddenly has fewer places to store glucose, and so sugar remains in the bloodstream longer. Your pancreas has to pump out more insulin, and over time this leads to insulin resistance, the root cause of type 2 diabetes, belly fat, fatty liver, and even accelerated brain aging. Now here is where the story gets even more interesting. Muscle is not just a storage tank. It is also a hormone factory. When you contract muscles under real resistance, they release signaling proteins called myokines. These myokines travel through the bloodstream and communicate with your liver, your fat cells, your brain, and even your immune system. They lower systemic inflammation, improve insulin sensitivity, and stimulate the growth of new mitochondria inside cells. That means more energy, faster fat burning, and protection against age-related decline. For example, one powerful myokine called irisin has been shown to help convert dangerous white fat into metabolically active brown fat, essentially turning your fat cells into calorie-burning furnaces. Other myokines stimulate the growth of new neurons in the brain, protecting memory and cognitive function. So when you build muscle, you are not just training your body, you are literally rewiring your metabolism and brain for resilience. What the research shows is striking. Studies published in journals of aging and metabolism confirm that higher levels of muscle mass are associated with lower risk of all-cause mortality, even after adjusting for body fat and other lifestyle factors. In simple terms, people with more muscle live longer and live better. This is why we must stop thinking of muscle training as optional or as something reserved for athletes. It is foundational medicine, it is preventive care, and unlike a pill or procedure, it is completely in your control. So, the next time you think of exercise, do not frame it as just burning calories. Frame it as signaling your body to produce the very hormones and proteins that defend you from aging, inflammation, and chronic disease. That is why resistance training is so much more powerful than walking alone. Walking is fantastic for circulation and mood, but it does not create the myokine release or glucose disposal that true muscle contractions generate. In the next section, we are going to explore this distinction in detail, why cardio alone is not enough, and the exact reason your body requires targeted muscle signals to stop sarcopenia in its tracks. For decades, the dominant health advice has been simple: move more, walk daily, and do your cardio. And yes, cardio is powerful. It improves circulation, supports heart health, lowers blood pressure, and helps manage stress. Walking after a meal can lower blood sugar, jogging improves lung capacity, and cycling can keep your cardiovascular system strong. But here is the missing piece. Cardio alone cannot stop sarcopenia. Why? Because the physiological signal required to preserve muscle fibers is completely different from the one that cardio delivers. Let me explain this with a whiteboard analogy. Imagine your muscles as a neighborhood of homes. There are slow twitch fibers. These are like the small, fuel-efficient houses. They handle endurance tasks like walking or cycling, and they are very easy to maintain. Then there are fast twitch fibers. These are the big, powerful mansions. They require more resources, but they give you explosive strength, balance, and protection against falls. When you do cardio, you are mostly keeping the small houses in shape. You are trimming the lawn, maybe painting the fence, but you are not repairing or expanding the big mansions. Over time, if you neglect those larger, fast twitch fibers, your body essentially demolishes them. This is why older adults who only walk or do light cardio often feel stable in endurance, but struggle with strength, balance, and quick reactions. Research confirms this. Clinical studies show that aerobic exercise, while excellent for cardiovascular conditioning, does not significantly stimulate the fast twitch fibers that are most vulnerable to aging. These fibers only respond when they are challenged with higher resistance, think squats, push-ups, or lifting against gravity. Without that tension, the body simply has no reason to keep them. Another hidden factor is mitochondrial density. Cardio can improve the endurance capacity of slow fibers, but resistance training creates mitochondrial biogenesis in fast fibers, essentially growing new power plants inside your muscles. This not only increases energy, but also helps protect your metabolic flexibility, the ability to switch between burning glucose and fat. That flexibility is critical for longevity. So here is the takeaway. Cardio is valuable, but incomplete. It is like brushing your teeth but never flossing. Yes, it helps, but it leaves a huge gap in your health defense. You need both cardio for endurance and circulation, and resistance for strength, balance, and metabolism. Now here is the good news. You do not need a gym, heavy dumbbells, or complicated routines to stimulate those fast twitch fibers. 2 very specific, simple, science-backed exercises can provide the exact stimulus your body needs to preserve and even grow muscle. These can be done in your living room in less than 15 minutes per day, and that is what we will unpack next. If this is resonating so far, consider subscribing because each week I share practical, science-based strategies to help you reverse muscle loss, protect your metabolism, and live stronger for longer. In the next section, we are going to reveal the 2 home exercises that research has shown to be incredibly effective for stopping sarcopenia and building real strength without a gym. Now let us get practical. We have talked about why walking and cardio alone cannot stop sarcopenia. The question becomes, what can you actually do at home, without a gym, to stimulate the right fibers and keep your muscles alive and strong? The answer lies in 2 of the simplest, most powerful movements ever studied, the squat and the push-up. Let me explain why these 2 stand out. First, the squat. This is the king of lower body exercises because it recruits nearly every major muscle group in your legs and hips, quadriceps, hamstrings, glutes, and calves. These are the muscles that allow you to stand from a chair, climb stairs, and maintain balance. In fact, one of the best predictors of longevity is the ability to sit down on the floor and rise back up without support. That motion is essentially a squat. Here is what the science shows. Studies in aging populations reveal that even bodyweight squats, when done consistently, preserve fast twitch fibers, increase insulin sensitivity, and improve functional independence. And because squats engage such a large portion of your muscle mass, they send a powerful signal to your metabolism, almost like flipping a switch that tells your body, we still need this tissue. Do not break it down. Second, the push-up. This simple movement works your chest, shoulders, triceps, and core. But more importantly, it builds the upper body strength that protects you from frailty. Think of all the daily tasks that require pushing, rising from the ground, bracing yourself from a fall, or carrying heavy groceries. Without upper body strength, independence slips away quickly. A fascinating study published in JAMA Network found that men who could perform just 40 push-ups had dramatically lower risk of cardiovascular disease over the next decade compared to those who struggled with fewer than 10. Why? Because push-ups are not just a measure of arm strength, they are a marker of overall metabolic and muscular health. Together, squats and push-ups form a complete home protocol. Squats build and protect the largest muscles in the lower body, while push-ups maintain upper body strength and postural stability. No equipment is needed. You can modify both movements to match your level. If you cannot do a full push-up, start against a wall or countertop. If a squat feels difficult, hold on to a chair for balance or do partial squats. The key is controlled movement under tension, done consistently. Here is how to implement this. Aim for 2 to 3 sessions per week. Start with a goal of 2 to 3 sets of squats and push-ups, performing as many as you can with good form. Over time, add repetitions or progress the difficulty, for example, moving from wall push-ups to knee push-ups, and eventually to full push-ups. For squats, move from partial to full depth, or add a pause at the bottom. Let me put this in a whiteboard analogy. Imagine your muscle fibers are light bulbs in a room. Many of them are slowly dimming as you age. Each time you do a squat or push-up, you flip those switches back on, keeping the room lit. If you do not send that signal, the bulbs keep burning out until the room goes dark. These 2 movements alone, performed consistently, are powerful enough to slow or even reverse sarcopenia. And when combined with the right nutrition and recovery strategies, the effects compound dramatically. In the next section, we are going to talk about exactly that: how to fuel your body with the right proteins, nutrients, and timing so that every squat and push-up you perform actually translates into stronger, healthier muscle. Exercise is the spark, but nutrition is the fuel. You can squat and push up all day long, but if your body does not have the raw materials to repair and rebuild muscle, the results will stall. Sarcopenia is not just about disuse. It is also deeply tied to undernutrition, especially inadequate protein intake. Let me explain what is really going on inside your body after resistance exercise. When you challenge your muscles, you create tiny microtears in the fibers. This is a good thing. Those microtears signal the body to repair and grow stronger. But for that repair to happen, your body requires amino acids, the building blocks of protein. Without enough of them, your body cannot complete the repair, and muscle loss continues. Now here is the shocking part. Studies show that older adults often consume far less protein than they need. Many get only half the amount required to maintain muscle mass. And to make matters worse, with age, the body becomes less sensitive to protein signals, a phenomenon called anabolic resistance. This means that while a younger person may trigger muscle growth with a small serving of protein, an older adult often needs a higher dose to get the same effect. So, what does the research suggest? A powerful guideline is to aim for around 1.2 to 1.6 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day if you are trying to maintain or rebuild muscle. For a person weighing 70 kilograms, that means between 85 and 110 grams of protein daily. And it is not just about total intake, it is about distribution. Your muscles respond best when you spread protein across the day, with 25 to 30 grams per meal, rather than eating it all at once. Let me give you practical examples. A breakfast of 3 eggs with spinach and a slice of smoked salmon delivers around 30 grams of protein. A lunch of grilled chicken breast with quinoa and broccoli gives you another 30 grams. Add in Greek yogurt, cottage cheese, or a protein-rich shake, and you easily hit your target. But protein is only part of the story. Micronutrients matter as well. Vitamin D, magnesium, and omega-3 fatty acids all play crucial roles in muscle function and recovery. Vitamin D supports muscle contractions, magnesium assists in energy production inside mitochondria, and omega-3 fatty acids have been shown in clinical trials to improve muscle protein synthesis and lower inflammation in older adults. Another key strategy is timing. Combining protein intake with your resistance exercise window is especially powerful. When you eat protein within about 2 hours of a workout, your muscles are primed to absorb and use those amino acids more effectively. Think of it like catching a train. The anabolic window is your chance to load nutrients onto the muscle train before it leaves the station. And here is one more factor: insulin sensitivity. Remember, muscle is the largest sink for glucose. By pairing protein with low glycemic, fiber-rich vegetables and healthy fats, you create a meal pattern that stabilizes blood sugar, prevents insulin spikes, and further supports muscle retention. So, in summary, exercise provides the signal, protein provides the raw material, and micronutrients plus timing optimize the process. When all three align, the result is stronger, more resilient muscle no matter your age. In the next section, we will put this all together into a simple weekly protocol: how to combine squats, push-ups, and nutrition into a realistic plan that fits into your life and directly counters sarcopenia. We have covered the science, the physiology, and the specific tools. Now let us put everything together into a simple, realistic weekly protocol that anyone can follow. This is where knowledge turns into action. In the final section, we will wrap everything up, recap the key takeaways, and give you a direct challenge to put this into practice starting today. We began this journey with a simple but powerful question: why do we lose muscle as we age, even when we stay active? The answer, as we have explored, is that sarcopenia is not just about moving less. It is about failing to send the right signals to your muscles, failing to fuel them properly, and failing to protect them from silent decline. We uncovered 6 critical insights. Number 1, muscle loss begins earlier than most people realize, starting in the 30s and accelerating after 50. Number 2, muscle is more than strength. It is a metabolic organ that protects you against insulin resistance, inflammation, and even cognitive decline. Number 3, cardio alone does not stop sarcopenia. Walking is wonderful, but it does not preserve fast-twitch fibers. Number 4, 2 simple home exercises, squats and push-ups, are enough to stimulate the right muscle fibers and fight muscle loss at its root. Number 5, nutrition is the fuel, with protein, micronutrients, and timing all playing crucial roles. And number 6, a simple, consistent weekly protocol of resistance, walking, nutrition, and recovery can not only stop sarcopenia, but reverse it, no matter your age. So here is the challenge. Do not wait. Do not wait until your body feels weaker, until you struggle to rise from a chair, until you have already lost the resilience you deserve. Start now. Begin with just 2 sets of squats and push-ups today. Eat a protein-rich meal that supplies your body with the amino acids it needs to rebuild. Go for a short walk after dinner to support glucose control, then repeat tomorrow. Small steps, repeated consistently, create massive change over time. Remember, your muscles are not just for show. They are your body's armor against aging, your defense system against chronic disease, and your engine for energy and longevity. Every rep you perform, every meal you optimize, every night of restorative sleep is an investment into a stronger, more capable, and longer life. I want you to picture yourself 10 or 20 years from now. Do you want to be the person struggling to stand up, dependent on medications and fragile in health? Or do you want to be the person who moves with strength, independence, and vitality, someone who can travel, play with grandchildren, and live fully without limitation? That choice is in your hands right now. If this video added value to your health journey, like the video and subscribe to join others who are protecting their energy, weight, and longevity naturally. And most importantly, do not just listen, act. Try these 2 exercises this week, fuel them with the right nutrition, and notice how quickly your body begins to respond. Your muscles are listening. The question is, what signal will you send them today? Do like, comment, and subscribe.